There should always be sunshine after a storm, but sometimes that isn't the case. Sometimes the clouds maintain a stronghold and no rays of sun can peek through. Cloudy or sunny, everything eventually dries out. Jill Swain has lived a life of clouds after the storm. While the rain and sun are now interchangeable, she is still drying.
My name is Jill Renee Swain, aka Mouseanomia Tadpole, aka Mouse, and this is my brave. A recurring image throughout life lately has been that of a coat hanger, a plain white wire coat hanger. Perhaps it's because of how it looks, thin and frail, but strong, and even when it gets bent out of shape, it can always be put right if slightly dinged and dented. That sums up my whole fight with mental illness. One of my favorite poems is Jane Kenyon's Having It Out with Melancholy. She put the proverbial finger on it when she described how, as a child, everything, even the baubles on her crib, made her sad. That's the way it was with me too. Everything and anything made me sad in some inexplicable way. I was a highly sensitive child. I was incredibly emotional, throwing temper tantrums, shrieking happily, having crying jags, or giving silent treatments for no reason at all. Sometimes I would be incredibly hyper and on the go. Sometimes I would be incredibly subdued, immobile, not wanting to do anything at all. And sometimes that all changed in the blink of an eye. I was also a little accident prone. Okay, a lot accident prone. I fell down the stairs at least once a week. I fell off playground equipment. I ran eye first into door frames at home. I would constantly trip and fall, skinning my knees and elbows to the point where I'm surprised I don't have permanent scarring. I even fell out of the top bunk bed twice. In later years, during a temper tantrum, I threw myself backward and cracked my head open on a tabletop. Later still, I accidentally put my hand through a window. For the record, my parents never hit me. I did it all myself. I've always known there was something off about me. Deep down, I knew I was acting irrational and over-emotional, but I couldn't stop myself. Deep down, I've always felt as though I wasn't truly worth it. Deep down, I knew I'd never really fit in. Deep down, I knew it wasn't normal to hurt oneself so much or to wish to be dead so strongly. My suicidal ideation at 5 years old was to throw myself down the stairs. Given my past history, I knew no one would be the wiser. I was depressed long before I knew what depression was, and I was aware there was something wrong with me for a very long time. I came from a nominally normal, dysfunctional family unit, 2 parents and 3 siblings, who relocated frequently when I was younger, which made me angry because I hated change. Plus, my family didn't believe me at first when I said I might be going crazy. They thought I was just looking for attention. Then in 5th grade, practically overnight, I began to be bullied by my classmates. Before that, I had not been well-liked, but I had been liked enough. And I hadn't done anything different. I was just being myself. Yet all of a sudden, I was getting picked on for it. I couldn't understand why or what I'd done wrong. It wreaked havoc with my self-esteem and self-confidence, and I kept it all to myself because the adults did nothing to stop it. One day in 6th grade, I had an epiphany. As part of the school's Just Say No Drug Prevention Week, the guidance counselor was talking to the class about depression. She was stumbling over her words, trying to find the right way to describe it to a bunch of 12-year-olds. It's like I had recognized all the symptoms of depression she had listed up and piped up right out loud in a flat voice. It's like a deep, dark hole that you cannot get out of when unspoken yet thought of in my head. Yes, that's it, exactly, she chirped, happy, oblivious. All the popular kids turned and stared at me. I saw them out of my peripheral vision, but I did not look at them, nor did I look up at all. At 12 years old, I finally knew what my problem was. I had depression. It was 5 years before the rest of the world caught on. On a cold January morning, 10 days after my 17th birthday, I tried to kill myself. At the time, I knew I was more out of it than I'd ever been before. I'd made a note of it just 2 days prior in my journal. It scared me immensely. I'd had incredible ups and downs in the months prior to my suicide attempt, though at the time, it wasn't because I didn't have enough. At the time, I had too much. I was coming off a probable manic episode brought about by my receiving an A on my creative writing final exam the day before. I'd never felt more possible, more hope, more grand, more on top of the world. The next morning, I woke up and knew that I had to kill myself. Simple as that. I was officially diagnosed with clinical depression when I was 17, then with bipolar disorder when I was 19. Recently, I have been diagnosed with anxiety issues, social phobia, and even mild Asperger's syndrome. I went through several medication combinations, some of which included lithium, Lamictal, and amitriptyline, before finally being prescribed Prozac and Abilify, which I take on a daily basis. I also went through several counselors and therapists for many years. Some worked, some didn't. I am currently seeing both a psychologist and a psychiatrist, and they are two great doctors who would never steer me wrong. All at once, it was a relief and a burden. It was a relief because I did and finally am getting the help I needed. It was a burden because I still don't know quite what to do with myself. On the outside, I have it all. A terrific job, a now supportive family, good financial standing, great hobbies and interests. I'm driving now after a long-standing phobia. I even have a boyfriend who knows about my depression, and he is very understanding and patient with me. But I will probably always be a child at heart, no matter how old I live to be. I still have good days and bad days. I had a bad bout with depression as recently as September 2014, where I didn't want to get out of bed for days at a time and considered suicide again. But somehow I managed to pull myself through it. It never really goes away. Most likely I will be on medication for the rest of my life as well. So why am I choosing now to be brave, to take a stand? Because so many people misunderstand mental illness. Mental illness is different for everyone who experiences it. Nothing is cookie cutter about it. If I can help one person with my story, perhaps even change one person's mind about mental illness, then I would have done a good deed. Also, ever since Robin Williams died, I've been feeling the need to step up and do more. My aunt suggested volunteer work with the mentally ill. I'm actively researching that possibility, and I hope that in the future I can become more of an advocate for mental health. I would say it was as if a weight has been lifted off my shoulders, but that's so cliched even if it is true. No, the way I see it is, it's more like I had been heavily soaking wet from all the depressions and anxieties and fears, and then I was wrung out completely and left on a plain white wire coat hanger to dry. I'm still drying.